Okay, welcome everybody. It's great to have you here with us. My name is Michael Pearson, and I'm here with my colleague Jyoti Bachani, who is going to lead the session on humanistic management and practice. And we're pleased to have Laurent Alt with us, who is an expert in agile, and he will share with you some connections in terms of the work that humanistic management has been doing in terms of like connecting it to evolutionary biology and other practices that we consider humanistic. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And Jyoti, why don't you take it away? Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you, Michael. Welcome, everybody. Good to have you here this morning. Very pleased that we get to slow down on a Friday morning to hear about how to use agile methodology. I'll start us off with a short poem.
Cooperation, learning. And what I found is that when you meet with all these companies, because especially when I work with in the consulting area, you at any level, on any social class, you have nice people. And so the problem is that they go on the left. So they start doing more and more things about delivery and less about how to manage, how to deal with people and not managing, but really being dealing with humans. They more and more go on the left side because they have to, and pressure takes over. And it's not because they are fundamentally bad people that they don't care. It's just that there is a problem in they don't know how to make it. There is something about how to weave the two and to make performance and people two sides of something that should work together. You probably heard about the Gallup polls about how many employees are engaged at work. You know, we know that there are 30% of employees in the US. It is 30%. I think France is less engaged at work. There are many who are disengaged, and even 15 or 17% who are actively disengaged. And so when we think about this equation about performance, and we think that you have a large number of people who are actively disengaged, it means that even thinking about performance, we should be thinking about how to engage people, how to motivate them, and it shouldn't be a no-brainer. It should not be a question. So this is something that really puzzled me. Like, how do we make the two work together? And second, if I take my scientific side, so the other thing is behavioral science. And we know that there are basically two ways to give feedback. One is negative, the other one is positive. And negative consequences to what we do, and we think of managing people, for example, they have a very bad effect on people. But if you want to be nice, you need many baby steps of dopamine and positive feedback and learning and nice conversations to make people engage. And there is a usual ratio, which is 4-1. Some people say 5-1. But there is a lot of evidence that if you know that we take care of this, then it has an influence, a massive influence of how people are engaged in work. And the question mark is how to make it happen. So if for example, what is a positive reinforcement thing? It could be getting a bonus. That's the easy one. Yes, getting a bonus is good. But then it could be a praise, which is not a physical reinforcement, but it's social reinforcement. But the ultimate thing is values. And when you get to values, when people are, for example, proud of the work they are doing, or they have a meaning of what they are doing, it counts as dopamine. It's a baby step for dopamine. So the whole question for people is to be able to put a lot of small dopamine things, for small positive reinforcements in the work of everyone. And when we look at this, suppose we look at a meeting, people say negative things and positive things. Personally, I look at them with red and greens. And I try to make it as green as possible. And the question is, how do we make it? And we cannot just go in any meeting room and say, yes, great job, and yes, blah, blah, blah. It's time consuming, it's not doable. What counts as green for one person is not green for another one. It depends on people, it depends on their values, of different values. So it has to be managed in a way that, that comes naturally in the organization. And this is what I discovered when I started doing Agile, because Agile is exactly this. So how does it work? So this is the broad message of what Agile is. Agile is how to build adaptive organizations. So organizations that are able to create and respond to change in order to succeed in a moving environment. That is the theory. How it works is very interesting. It works by having people, sorry, I got too fast, by having people attend to dedicated meetings and focused meetings where we expect some positive behaviors in these meetings. And there is a script for the meetings, and there is a coach in the meeting that tries to, to move the way the meeting is happening in a way that we have positive behaviors in them. And I don't know if you have in mind the big project reviews and big program reviews that take 3 hours, 4 hours, where people talk about everything, and in the end, there is no sense of, oh, we've done something. We have just have a meeting. The way Agile takes it is to say, there is one meeting for planning, and this meeting should happen this way, and this is who we invite. There is a meeting for showing the work of people, which is called a demo, and the goal is to praise and to say positive feedback. And there is a meeting for retrospective, which is we think about how we work together as a team. We think about what works, what doesn't work, and we reflect on what we could improve. And it's a very specific meeting where it's very open-minded. Managers are usually not allowed in. It's for teams to reflect themselves so they can speak with confidence about what's good and what's not good without being judged on it. And the interesting part in Agile is that it happens. You remember these baby steps. The thing is that there has to be many of them so that we get engagement. So it's much better, and that is science again. It's much better to have many small meetings with small outcomes that are positive than one big yes, congratulations. It's beautiful. It's much better to do these baby steps. It creates a very interesting engagement. So Agile works like this. And the counterpart for it is to be able to break down the work of all the teams in small chunks. And so that we have a demo every time they do something, they are able to show something. And in software that happens because people deliver pieces of software. We show how the software is running and we make it visible for everyone in a demo. And that visibility enables feedback, and everyone can give positive feedback. So in the end, this is what I had personally. I'm taking my own journey now. This is on the left, you can see what was my previous agenda. It was like a lot of committees, escalation problems, people interrupting, trying to tweak new meetings in my agenda all the time. The way Agile works is more like a slow and steady cadence, and every day we can see some progress. There is some room for problem solving. There is some room for demos. Only Fridays, sometimes every other Friday, every 2 weeks. There is some time for retrospective. So for introspection, how do we work? And every meeting has a dedicated mindset. And so what's positive about this is that instead of having a mix of, lots of projects coming, you have a cadence of small meetings which are dedicated and where you expect some behaviors. And there is some, it's like a scenario, it's scripted. We expect people to behave some way. And for example, on a demo, when the team is demoing their work, there is no room for criticizing. It is forbidden to criticize. We just take the critics and say, okay, there is something not good. We make a meeting to solve the problem. But it's a meeting which will be positive as well, because we will transform a problem into a solution. So if you think about what the teams are thinking, it's not a mix of, as you saw in the picture, of red and green, and in the end, you don't have any positive outcome of it. It's like every meeting is kind of a green meeting. There is some positive outcome of it. The positive work is shown, so people get congratulations. When there is a problem, we create a retrospective or a problem-solving meeting so that we can solve the problem and we can celebrate the fact that we found a solution. And so that's how it works on a high frequency. And so without going in the details, what it means is that as a manager, you have, I would say, you tell less people what to do. You more give them guidelines, and you see the results in a demo, and not criticizing, and then you take some time afterwards to say, okay, there is a gap between what my expectation and what I've seen. How can we bridge the gap? And that meeting, again, it's not a criticism, it's just another meeting that says, how do we reduce the gap between my expectations, or between the company's expectations and what I wanted to do? And so you can see that the whole thing is about making positive meetings and transforming instead of having a planning that is given by projects and lots of people talking together, there is a cadence that people align on, and with a very dedicated system of meetings. It is pretty complex in organizations. So there are trainings, there are frameworks for Agile, there are days of training. But what I would say is that the main thing when we try to scale this is, I have written this article on LinkedIn, it's time. The main problem that we need to solve is leaders, they have pressure, they want to deal with people, they don't have the time. And so we need to find something that works in their calendar that books time for these aspects of performance and people development, etc. Agile makes it possible. It is possible to scale it. So you have teams, you have leaders above the teams, you have teams of teams, etc. And it can work in any scale. What is really important is that at some moment, the top leaders can manage to reorganize their agenda. And so my experience in this was that I had a team at some point in my career, I had 200 people, managing 200 people. That meant 20 teams of 10, which were each delivering one part of our product. And the thing that I faced was I fell in the trap of management. Like I was starting doing a big management review on Mondays and telling people what to do and asking them what they thought. It was very one-directional. And at some point, my N-1s, so my direct reports, told me, look, you keep telling us what we have to do, but we want to discuss between us, and we want to have a resolution of our problems, not just do what you're telling us. And they started doing the other way. They had their own meeting, and they had discussions between them without me. And they just called me at the end, like, okay, we had solved our problems. Do you agree on our solutions? And it took me 10 minutes. So it reversed, it flipped the hierarchy. I was no longer telling them, which is a red thing. I was just letting go, not telling too much on Mondays, and they had their meetings on Fridays, and they were proposing solutions or proposing new ideas or new deliveries on products, and I was only saying yes, no. So what is at stake here is the balance between how much I was driving and how much I was reacting. And if you let go a bit, then your teams can take more. What they deliver is their own work. And you just only have to say, yes, I like it or no. The thing that is really important is also to have metrics and to measure the performance and to measure the delivery. We cannot go away from that. But at least we have the means to flip from directive to non-directive, to coming from the bottom instead of coming from the top down. And so the way Agile works is exactly this. By setting up different kinds of meetings, you enable the teams to take more ownership. And what is the thing that makes it work is that the ability to measure. And it connects back to, I think you probably know authentic leadership or authenticity, being on your values and telling people things that are really coming from you, that are consistent with being yourself when you're managing. And what is important in this is that when you suppose you don't have data, and suppose you don't have metrics and things that prove that something is right or not right. When you say something, good job, or on the opposite, no, that's not good. If it's not grounded on facts, then it's very difficult. And the day you criticize someone on something that is not good, and it's not based on facts, then your relationship with the team or with the person is weakened. And the day you will say something positive, it will be weak as well. So that is about trust. And so building this kind of system relies on a lot on digital tools, on metrics, on measuring. And if you have that in place, then you can measure the fact that, yes, what I'm saying, when I'm saying it's good, I really mean it. And so the impact of a positive feedback and positive reinforcement is much stronger when it's based on facts than when it is not, because otherwise there is also a doubt. So when you look at companies in software, for example, and all the companies in software are doing it more or less, Google, Amazon, etc., Netflix, they all work this way. And what is common with all these companies is that they have a digital backbone that takes a lot of information across the company. And so everyone shares, there is an incredible transparency. And it's not a transparency that is against people. It's just a transparency that makes all the conversations very sane, very good, just because it's always based on facts. People may disagree, people may not be happy, but it's always based on facts. And when something is good, it means that real people are really saying, yes, this is a great work, because there is this transparency. We're almost at 9:30. 6:30 my time. I just would like to say something about what's happening next, because that has a lot happened in software. And so you might think that it's happening, it's a software thing. Now, hardware companies are doing it. So companies like that are delivering cars and airplanes are doing it. It's also coming in. I have discussions with someone in France about education. So there are ways to, to think about how do we make with this way of working in education. It would mean having very fast iterations, making tests with the children, with the students very frequently, for example, to get feedback. But it should not be judgment. There should not be a mark associated to it. It's just for evaluating the result and reflecting on, are we using the right method to teach? Are we producing learning? Are the children happy? And so that is an incremental way, by leveraging more data, more frequent ways of interacting with people, maybe shorter courses, I don't know, but having a faster way of doing things. Faster doesn't mean more pressure, it means more iterations. Then you can have this, these steps, these green steps happen across the board in the whole organization, in the whole group of people, and create more engagement. And we've seen that in Agile for years. And what I'm looking at is now exactly what I was saying, working with other organizations and taking it out of software, because I believe that it should be in all organizations. Somehow it has to be adapted, but so that with more frequency, more data, and absolutely critical, a change in leadership, we would get better results and a better engagement and better feelings in the organizations. I've been through it quite quickly because it's a vast topic, but I'm really willing to hear any questions. I can give precision, and I can stay after 10. I know it's a very engaged community, so please.
Thank you so much.
Questions.
I appreciated your sharing your personal introduction, and you mentioned that it would be relevant. Could you remind us of how the journey with agility and that background connect?
Yes, and so yes, one thing is about doing things, and the fact that we look at the results of what the team are doing. And so when people are demoing their work, they are showing their work and to a group of people, or showing an improvement of their work. It could be a prototype, and they show a next version of a prototype, etc. They are proud of it. And so when you come to a team and say, you guys have done an incredible job, it kind of spreads positive feedback on the whole team. Sorry. And so what I've seen in many organizations is that we have leaders who have an accountant mindset. They are counting metrics, they are counting numbers, etc. And they no longer think about the thing that they are producing. And when you are a leader and that you have in your calendar, I will go to a demo and I will see what my teams are doing, and I will not criticize it. And potentially I will say, yes, great job. But this is an important message. What it means, and I've been facing this, what it means is that you have to book it. It has to be, on my calendar, it was Friday mornings. All Friday mornings were booked. And I had this moment once in my career where the CEO said, I want to do a stuff. You have to move to go to Paris, and we're making a 2 days leadership thing. I said, no, I can't, because I will miss the demo. yeah, do it. Okay, I did it. And 1 month after, I had the same situations. I had to miss the demos. And my teams went to me and said, Laurent, you should come to our demos because you bring meaning to our work. So when it should not, ideally, they should be so proud of what they do, regardless of my judgment. But it was very important to have that feedback because it gave meaning to it. And so back to, and thank you for the question, Jyoti. It was really about how you bring meaning to the teams. And if you show that you're interested in the work of people, then you bring a lot of meaning. And so it's this values, connecting with values, what you care for. Agile people call it the craftsmanship spirit. So if you look for agile and craftsmanship, you see a lot of people saying we love our code. It's for geeks, but whatever you're doing, it works.
Thank you so much. I see that questions are coming in the chat window. You can unmute yourself in the order that you put the questions and comments in the chat window. Please join the conversation. We have the time explicitly for this interaction. Enrique, did you want to unmute and read the question? Thank you.
Yes, sure. I wonder, Laurent, what was your personal transformation to adopt this kind of leadership that is not what we usually learn in very hierarchical organizations? So, what kind of skills and mind changing has to occur in your person?
Yeah, one I can think of is that I was the kind of guy who knew everything and who liked to know everything. At some point, when I was managing 12 people, that worked. I knew more than my teams. When I started managing 200, that no longer worked. So I had to organize my time in a way that I was still connected to the content what my teams were doing, and they were all delivering a different part of products, sometimes different products. So I had to admit that I didn't know, but at the same time, I didn't want to be disconnected from reality. So I wanted to go to the demo in order to, to still have some of my time involved in seeing, not only to be able to say to congratulate the teams for their work, but also to know what they were doing and to understand the work they were doing, the complexity they were doing, the problems they were having. And so it was a balance between, stepping up and being the manager of more people, which means new skills in management, but not being disconnected from reality. And my big question was this agenda. I said earlier, like, where should I spend my time? One thing is to say, I spend a lot of time in meetings with the CEO. Another one is to say, I should be able to say no to the CEO for some things and say, I want to see my teams. This is a fixed schedule for my teams. I need to keep it. And sometimes I couldn't say no, but I tried to. That was the major shift.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question.
Cotula, it's wonderful to see you here. Please ask your question.
Yes, Laurent, I was very intrigued. As a manager, you have the opportunity to assign team workload for your own teams, but you very often, if you are not the CEO, are also in front of another hierarchy. So how do you then react to very often high workload expectations from your hierarchy, not to get crushed in between?
That's an interesting question because there was some moment, I would say there was some moment where when I started, it was a big change. So my workload went through the roof, especially because I was in another world than the CEO, because I was working with Agile is about empowerment, but it's also very collective. So, for example, he would ask me for deadlines, and I would say, it happens when it happens. I can give you visibility on where we are in the pipeline. So we are 80% something, and I'm pretty sure we will be on time for this. And what he wanted it was do whatever is needed in order to hit the deadlines. But if you do that, you break the teams. And so that's back to the question, performance versus teamwork. I wanted to keep the teams stable over time, to trust them, and so to keep some pressure on me. And so the moment where you are putting in place an agile system is very hard. But when you have it running, I really remember one day I was reporting and we were late on something. And I said, we are late. I'm absolutely sure that by 2 weeks we will be done with all the quality requirements, with everything running, etc. And I knew it because I had absolute trust in my teams, because I had seen on the boards, I've shown you, I think, sorry, a visual board with all the stickies. I know at what speed the sticker are moving. I knew that there was no obstacle, the red things that were drawn on it, there was no obstacle. So I was absolutely sure that it was delivered, it would be delivered on time. And so at some point I was so confident in my organization, because it was built on the trust of teams, on their own trust in what they deliver. And it has been running for 2 years, that he had more trust in me than anyone else. And it's funny, because it was not due to me being more hassling and more controlling people. It was because I had more empowerment to the teams, and the teams had each the autonomy and the transparency on what they were delivering. So back to your question, the peak, and afterwards, my agenda was very cool. I was doing sports, and I was, I would take time for me. I didn't have a horrible agenda, but it took 2 years.
I want to add something to that. And Cordula, you know Sumantra's work well, and he talks about the importance of people and importance of the social aspects of our work rather than just the economic pressures. And in my classroom, I teach MBAs who come from Silicon Valley companies. I've literally had to teach them how to say no to their bosses. And there are articles on a dozen different ways to say, if you're giving me something Friday evening at 5 p.m. and you want it first thing in the morning, like, what else can I take off my thing? Or if I'm going to work through the weekend, do I get a compensatory day off at another time? And to show some grace to the talent that works for you, to say you're already giving your best. And we recognize that. And the pressure from the top is also okay now in the world of internet, where the networks are more important than the hierarchy. The hierarchy is not disappearing. It is efficient, but the hierarchy is disrupting the power structure, and the people at the top are afraid to lose that power, and to make them recognize that this is one way to lose it if you don't show grace to your people, if you don't recognize the importance of networks and join the networks to enable everybody to contribute. So that's my experience from the classroom. Ravi, you can go next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I put my question in the chat. I hope you read that. But basically, it's related to the level of reliable existing knowledge that we have. A lot of times in organizations, we have a lot of known unknowns, unknown unknowns, a lot of uncertainties. You really don't have data to really judge people. Most recently, Pope Francis said, "Who am I to judge?" It's a very moralistic appeal that as a human being, I really don't have the adequate knowledge to really make data-driven decisions based on reliable knowledge. And in your own lecture, you mentioned, that's what I put in the chat, you mentioned two approaches. When there is data, use the data for praise or criticism. But when you don't have data, try to develop trust. So these are two conflicting approaches, and I'm not sure, given so much uncertainty we face, lack of knowledge that we face in organizations, how do you reconcile these two? How can I be data-driven while also build trust when I have so much lack of knowledge and uncertainty? Yeah.
So maybe I did not express exactly the way the way I wanted. To me, data is everything, and so there is always trust which is based on data. But there is something that it's not individual data. I think I forgot to say one thing. It's usually teams data. And we almost never, in Agile, we never collect information about the people, but it's about the team. So that we leave it to the team, the responsibility to self-organize. They have one key metric, usually, which is called velocity. It's how fast we deliver stuff. And they keep it for their record. So it's not visible by the management. They have a measure of their own performance. Every retrospective they do every end of a sprint, 1 week or 2 weeks. They think about their own velocity. Is it increasing or not? Are they getting better together as a team or not? Think of a team, for example, as someone who is doing specifications and then delivery, another one testing, and they are working the three together in order to create something. And so if one person is late, the other one can take a part of the job and do it herself. And so you can have a balance of workload inside the team, and they just shift responsibilities in order to deliver as a team. And so the data I'm talking about is teams' performance, and they use it for self-improvement themselves. And what is used, on the contrary, to create trust outside the team is the product delivery. What do they have? What things they have delivered? The what, not the how. And so that is tracked as well. And when you look at the companies doing software, they track a ton of things, and they are all weak signals. So you create trust by saying it's progressing roughly. We look at a ton of data, but roughly it's going up. But they don't take one part of data in order to hassle people because something is bad. They just take averages, and they try to take every problem as an opportunity to solve a problem and learn from it. Did I answer a question? Or
it is one of the eternal dilemmas for management as to, you extend trust, and we sometimes get betrayed in the trust, and sometimes people exceed our expectations, and you figure out it's a never-ending dance. I wish there was a way to know when and how much to trust. But the point about focusing on the output and focusing on the work that we do together rather than on the people is spot on. It's wonderful.
yeah,
Larry, and then Michael.
Yeah, sorry, just
Yeah,
one word that is used in Agile. It's replacing the word output by the word outcome, meaning that we more think about what is the impact of what the team has delivered. For example, rather than saying I'm fulfilling specifications or delivering something that I was asked. It's more like, do I make my client happy? And did I deliver the thing that is the most important for my client? And that is the outcome versus the output.
Thank you for that clarification. Larry, your hand's up. Did you have a question?
I do. Mr. Laurent, I would like your opinion. For 80 years, we have been talking about, humanistic management. I mean, McGregor with theory X and Y, and servant leadership, and experiential leadership, and transformational leadership, and the list is endless. Why do you think that for 80 years we've been talking about humanistic management, yet the majority of the world and organizations seem to be stuck in a top-down autocratic approach?
At some point, I think that at some point it hits, I would say, the shareholders' expectations. So you can go up from director to CEO, and then the next step is shareholders. And there are organizations that do not want to have returns, that are sustainable organizations, that are not imposing returns for everything. And I think that these organizations, it's really, it has to happen at this level. To some extent, just like I was saying, how I behave myself, I was not crushed, but I had to manage the pressure between expectation on results and the ability to to manage people in a way that is sustainable and that's humanistic. And it wasn't me; it was on my shoulders. At some point, I had done the job. Honestly, we had the unions who were very happy about the transformation we had made on 200 people. I've kept the reports because I'm proud of it. They were saying, yeah, this is how we want management to work. When you went one level up, then it was different because we had other changes to make at another level. And so it's yet a new transformation for every layer you go up. For every new level, there has to be a different transformation. Unfortunately, my view is that at some point, the cognitive load of people is such that they cannot understand the products. The only language they have is money, it's figures. And they talk about money because it's the thing that everyone understands. So to me, the thing that I wish happened is that people think about the products they are delivering at the highest level, about products or outcomes or whatever we call them, but the thing that connects with what the people are delivering. I'm pretty sure that in some industries it's doable. In others, it may be much more difficult. But I think we should change the language of what the management is talking about, and not talking only about money, but talking about the products and putting the product in the mindset of people. And some companies do it, but I think it's very difficult. I mean, I agree with your what you said at the beginning. It's been decades, and it's very difficult to go up.
It seems we could change the focus from, say, money or output to what are we delivering, which would be more customer-centric. But what about employee-centric and how we treat them? Are you saying that changes, that perception changes depending on the level of management you're at?
Yes, I think that at the management level, at some point they think in figures, they don't think in products. It's my personal, I mean, I didn't make official studies, but every report is about this. And we see, chief happiness officers, the people who really mind about the people, they have they don't have the main seats.
Mhm.
And there are labels like B Corps. There are things where companies that are trying to do it. I know that Danone, a French company, was a B Corp certified, the biggest one certified. So there are initiatives, but it's still very rare. So it's doable. Maybe one thing, it's family businesses. Maybe that is one way to make it happen. To have a more, long-term conscious capitalism view rather than only the short-term shareholders.
I just want to add a ray of hope there. I haven't followed this for 80 years, but I've worked with Michael Pearson for more than 15 years now. And before founding the International Humanistic Management Association, he had founded Humanistic Management Network. Now he's working with Humanistic Leadership Academy as well. And over the course of 15 years, at many conferences, at many meetings such as this one, we have managed to surround ourselves with people who are practicing this on a daily basis. So when in my MBA classroom with case studies of companies like ESRI, which is family owned, but sixth largest software company that introduced spatial reasoning and GIS software to the world 35 years ago, when students say, is this too idealistic? Is that okay in your ivory tower of a campus, but does it work in the real world? My answer is to go touch them on the shoulder to say, are you real? Am I real? This is happening in the real world. And I have, for 15 years, thanks to people I've met through the work that Michael has been doing, have managed to see this unfold. So at least for 15 years, I can say it is possible. It exists in small circles. 33 of us are here. We've spent an hour doing this. That's 33 man hours right there. And many more will watch the recording. And 122 had signed up for it. So the intention is definitely there. So it exists. It exists in small pockets. It may not make the front page news on a daily basis, which tends to bias how we lose hope. Michael, your turn.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I do think that's part of the bias, right? We're basically, and I think Laurent, you and I, we talked about this being very much in line with evolutionary insights. We're wired for this in many ways. We don't necessarily know how to honor that, but it becomes effective when we make it work that way. So my question was, Laurent, you sort of provoked us into thinking about everything as data and making it measurable and having it fact-based. And I'm looking at my industry and looking at education, leadership development, personal formation, and the data points there. What do you suggest? Because I'm curious. We have course evaluations that are highly doubtful as good data. What do you see?
Well, so it turns out I'm in the strategy committee of an ed tech company that works in autism. And so this is a place where you exactly measure all the baby steps that every child is doing, and it enables targeted programs. What I believe, and I'm not a fond of AI for many of the aspects of AI, but in the case of making, for example, targeted courses for every student by knowing their personal difficulty and finding the right exercise or the right number of steps to overcome that difficulty. I think that there is a huge gain to expect in this. And so it's a ton of data. However, just like in agile teams, no one wants to be measured. These data should be absolutely hidden from anyone who would come and judge and make a commercial use of that. It's for personal improvement, so we need to take care of the privacy and what we do with the data. So there is a tremendous gain, but it's also we need to be very cautious. And it could completely change the work of teachers. Like focusing on like having, plain vanilla courses that everyone can look at, but then focusing one by one on the people, on the person, maybe doing group courses as well, and finding new ways of teaching that take into account the differences between learning styles and everyone.
We're coming up to the end of the hour. I'm happy to stay longer to continue the conversation, but to respect everybody's time, giving us generously an hour of your morning on a Friday is the best thing. So thank you for keeping my hope alive for so long and showing up to do the necessary work. I have a request, since everybody did not get a chance to speak. If you can put a comment in the chat window to thank our speaker, to thank Ariane, the power behind organizing us, creating the Eventbrite page, hosting the Zoom meeting, and helping solve technology issues, and what you're taking away from it, because what you learned from it and what feeling it leaves you with will inspire others from seeing what you're gaining from the hour that you gave us. So please put your note of what are you taking away? What do you want to see again in the future? And thank you very much for being here. We can stop the recording, Ariane, and then we can continue the